Hey there! Let me show you how to use the Application Verifier with WinDBG. Microsoft has a tool, Application Verifier, which can be used to configure Windows to add some extra error checking to your application. When you run an executable which has been configured by Application Verifier, there will be some additional exceptions which will be raised for certain conditions which otherwise could just pass through unseen. Obtain a copy of the verifier by installing the latest Windows SDK. I will leave a link in the description below on where you can get the latest Windows SDK. Okay, let me switch to my remote machine to start the verifier. So to use the AppVerifier, what we do is we run AppVerifier. The AppVerifier program is the first program in my list, so I just typed app, but you can just type the full name of AppVerifier. The program has a suffix wow. The suffix wow means that this version of AppVerifier is the 32-bit version. There is a 32-bit version and a 64-bit version. Both versions are essentially the same, but they set commands on different bit types for the application. So the 32-bit version can only set commands for the 32-bit and the 64-bit only works for 64-bit applications. So I'm going to choose the 32-bit version. Now I get a UAC dialog that appears. That is correct. It is because AppVerifier is going to modify the Windows registry. So log in as an administrator when you use AppVerifier and definitely click yes, and the verifier will start. So how we begin using AppVerifier is we right click in the image name box and choose add application. I'm going to choose an exe that I've written previously to be the sample for AppVerifier. So I press open for the exe and it gets added to AppVerifier. Once the program is added, you get a set of tests over here. Each one of these tests is a predefined set of options in Windows in which Windows will add additional checking when a certain API is called. There are lists of what these tests do. I will leave a link in the description below to the Microsoft documentation for all the tests. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to enable the basics test. Basics is a set of exceptions, handles, heaps, leak, locks, memory, different kinds of locks, thread pools. And what these tests do is that if I call any of the Windows API that interacts with any of these functionality, there will be additional checks. I'm going to leave basics on, and there is a whole bunch of other tests. I'm just going to leave that for now. Those tests are a bit more advanced. I might cover that in a future video, but I'm going to do basics for now. Now, once you have chosen your test, just press save. When you press save, this application will actually write into the Windows registry what tests it needs. You can then actually close AppVerifier and the test will still run. So if you want to remove the test, you actually have to go back into the application, choose what options you want and press save again. Let me just remove the application from AppVerifier by deleting it so that I can show you a demonstration of what AppVerifier does. So this is my source code of my application in Visual Studio. The source code is pretty simple. It's just a basic C++ application. What I've done is I have created an event over here which gives me a handle. The event is not important, but I'm going to close the event twice. So what's going to happen is after the first close, the handle is actually invalid. So when I close it the second time, I actually have an invalid handle. I put two console outs over here so that I could see whether the program reaches the end and whether I can actually observe this error when I run the program. I am going to run the program in PowerShell. So when I run the program over here, AppVerifier sample 1, what happens is I get two console outlines going to create handle and close it twice, handle cleaned up. If I go back to the source, I can obviously see that the second close handle should have indicated some kind of error, but the nature of these functions mean that certain kind of errors are not checked. So let me do that experiment again, but this time I'll use AppVerifier. So to use AppVerifier, pretty simple. I go to AppVerifier, I add application, add my AppVerifier sample, open. The basic test is all I need because what I'm going to do is I'm going to trigger the handle test over here. I press save And this will write into the Windows registry to check for basic errors. Then what I need to do is I go back to my PowerShell and I'm going to run the application again, but observe the second time. I only get one line and I don't get handle cleaned up. The reason is the program actually crashed. Now let me repeat running the application, but this time I'm going to run it in WinDBG. So I'm going to choose my 32-bit WinDBG over here. I'm going to put it on the side a bit. And then I'm just going to choose to open the executable and run it from here. So there it is, it's running. WinDBG will stop at the initial breakpoint over here. I'm just going to press F5 on my keyboard and it's going to continue running. And there we are. You see that it has actually stopped with a first chance exception. Now, I'm pretty sure we know what happened. The first chance exception is because I closed the handle twice. But I'm going to run analyze-v anyway, so that we get a better description of what the error is. So analyze might take a while because it needs to download symbols and it needs to run through some analysis. So I'll just cut the video short if it takes too long. Okay, so analyze has completed. Let me try to make the window a bit larger so that it'll be easier to read the text. Okay, so what we have over here is we have the results of the analyze-v. But we're going to notice something a bit different. If we scroll up and we see that the reason for the crash, we're going to see that we have an invalid handle over here, but we're going to see that what triggered it was actually AVRF. This is Application Verifier. What happens is inside the application, because the exception is raised by Windows using Application Verifier, it actually raises it using a unique exception which can be analyzed even further. So if I go down here, it says anti-close was the symbol name and it shows that the close was the thing that raised the exception. Now, within Application Verifier, there is a plugin that can give me even more diagnostic information. So what I can do is I can just run AVRF, which is a command that is part of the Application Verifier package. What this does is it gives me more information about what kind of error that occurred. Now, in my case, the AVRF did not show that much information because this was an exception that essentially just crashed. If there are errors where it is a persistent error, like something like a memory leak, AVRF will actually show the individual allocations. So for example, if I have a leak, I can actually do AVRF and it will show me all the handles that are leaked, all the memory that is leaked, or any of the thread pools that are leaked. I will maybe do a video in the future where I will show individually each of the leaks. Most of it require additional commands, so I'll probably not do that in this video. I think just having the stack show that the anti-close has failed is more than enough to get Application Verifier running. Definitely give this plugin a try if you're able to get Application Verifier to work. Let me just switch back. So I use Application Verifier occasionally on native programs. I definitely make it a point that before I release an application to definitely run Application Verifier, because there are a lot of exceptions that you can get with Windows API which you cannot really figure out if you just run your application. Now, getting a copy of the verifier is a bit complicated. Sometimes you get it as part of Visual Studio. If you don't, just go to this website over here and you can download the latest SDK. Now, the Microsoft website for some reason does not let you install Application Verifier as an installable package. You have to download the SDK and install the SDK. But within the SDK, you will get an option for App Verifier. Sometimes you don't get the option, just install everything and you'll definitely get App Verifier on your system. So try to get App Verifier to work. It really saves you a lot of time. But one handy tip, don't use it with .NET. The reason is, within .NET, there are actual exceptions that are used by the .NET CLR which would trigger App Verifier. So App Verifier is pretty niche because it only works properly on C++ and C applications. You can try it on .NET, but you gotta make sure that you avoid certain kinds of tests. I will try to find a list of which tests you can't use, but from my experience, it doesn't work that well with .NET. Now, if for some reason you can't get AppVerifier to work properly, there is a second way to use it, which is to use the Windows registry and just type in the AppVerifier value. Now I'll briefly show how that works. So when you use AppVerifier, what exactly happens is AppVerifier will go to this registry key over here called Image File Execution Options. I'll put a link in the description below where to get these options. And what it does is it just adds a whole bunch of keys over here that indicate what options you want to select. Technically, you can just write these options into the registry and it will work exactly the same as AppVerifier, but I recommend using AppVerifier at least in the beginning until you figure this out. Once you know exactly what keys you want, you can always save it in a config file or you can save it in a registry file and just apply it, and it actually works the same way that AppVerifier works. Even if you delete the keys, Windows will work, so don't worry about editing these keys. You can do anything you want. If you do make a mistake, just right click and delete. Anyway, that is a brief description of how AppVerifier works. I use it occasionally. I do recommend at least giving it a go if you have a native application. Gentle reminder to subscribe, hit that bell icon, and give me a like if you like the content. It helps the channel grow. It's been a pleasure bringing you this information. I am High Voice, signing out.